101 review. Book one was all about the book started right for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest, award-winning journalist, helping women turn raw words into authentic. None other than Miss Tanya Targett Camacho. Welcome,
Yes, that's me.
welcome.
Hello.
Yes,
Thank
welcome,
you.
welcome. Welcome, Miss Tanya. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, I'm an award-winning journalist. I worked as a journalist in Australia. I'm now based in Southern California, and my specialty was chasing really bad people, so pedophiles
Mhm.
and terrorists and all that kind of thing. And my specialty is finding the story, and so that's what I do now. Is I specialize in capturing the female voice, using my skills as a journalist to pull out all the gold in your content and your story that doesn't seem that interesting to you because you think everybody knows it, but they in fact don't. And so I work as a journalist with my clients one-on-one, interviewing them and then pulling all those sound bites out. And then I work as a video editor, putting them all together so that they actually, when they watch their video back or where their audience watches their video back, they feel like that's them that they're really speaking to. So a lot of feedback that I get from clients before I work with them is, I make video, but it just doesn't sound like me. I just don't like how it lands. I'm not really, I want to come across more of my personality. And that's what we want to bring out, because that's why your clients work with you. They love you. And so we want to bring out that essence of who you are onto video, even when you might be feeling a little bit awkward on video.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Tanya. Thank you. And today let's talk about storytelling that sticks, the journalist toolkit. So tell us what it's all about.
Yeah. So I think, there's two aspects to this. So there's that when we think about creating content for our social media channels, our blogs, our website, we've got the story aspect of it, and then we've got content aspect of it. And people often will say, oh, you've got a really great story to tell, you should share that story. And so when we're looking at mining that story, when I'm looking at using that journalist toolkit, I'm looking for certain triggers. And when I say these, you're going to go, okay, that's obvious, but it's not obvious when it comes to those parts of your story. So when we think about what makes news for us or what lands in the news cycle, and I'm not talking about mainstream media, I'm talking about social media, right? And so some of those elements we can be using in our business. So when I'm working with someone and I'm using that toolkit, I'm looking for controversy. I'm looking for, and this is a big one, emotion, because facts and logic unlock the brain, unlock the mind. But when we unlock that vulnerability, when we unlock that emotion, that connection, people remember how we make them feel. And so we're looking for elements of your story. So one of the first things that I do, Daniel, when I'm working with someone is I timeline them, in that I'm going back, I'm going way, 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 way back, because I want to put their mind at ease, and I want to see what stories they might have that we could access that would be relevant to whatever is going on in the world today, and whatever is going on in their business, and whatever is going on in the lives of their clients. So one of the things I'll do is I'll take them back to timeline, like tell me where you grew up, tell me where you went to school. Did you have any challenges when you were at school? Were you popular? Did you struggle with your grades? What kind of challenges did you have? What kind of wonderful experiences did you have? And I just guide them through that process, taking notes, looking for sound bites, because we want to speak in sound bites. And we're looking for multiple stories. So sometimes when people think about, I want to get my story out there, they literally throw the whole story out. But we're just looking, we all have really short attention spans now. So we're just looking for one element of that story, or one element of that content, that genius that we have, that we can be sharing. And then we want to make it timely and relevant. So if you have a look at things that are trending, okay, if you have a look at things that are trending on social media, what elements do we have in our story? They might have been experiences that we've had, challenges that we've overcome, projects that we're working on, or things that we've helped a client to go through. That's also relevant to what's going on in the media right now. So, and when I say media, I mean social media. So we're always looking for, Daniel, we're looking for relevancy. We want our content to be relevant. We're looking for a sense of urgency. Why does that story need to be told now? Why does the audience even need to hear that story and be shared with that story now? And then what elements can I bring to add something to the conversation? So it's not just repeating what's already out there, it's adding that unique flavor that we have, that you have. And one of the questions that I love to ask my clients when I'm diving deeper and I'm mining into their genius, if it's, content driven video, or if it's their story, is I'll often ask them things like, how do you know that? Like, how do you know that? Like, if I was interviewing you, Daniel, I might say to you, how do you pick your guests? And you might go, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then I would dive deeper and I go, yeah, but there's something in particular that you're looking for. There's a lot of guests out there. What specifically are you looking for? Tell me more about that. Why are you looking for those sorts of people? What's been your experience with that? Do you have an interesting story? What's the funniest podcast guest you've ever had? What's the biggest mistake on a podcast you ever had? And what's the takeaway from that? So that's just a little bit of an example in 2-3 minutes of mining the gold for your story. So you can imagine if we were doing that for 45 minutes or an hour. So that's part of the process of digging out that gold.
So, Ms. Tanya, what were you guarding these journalistic tools from before this event? What is the fear of delusion, a sense of professional pride, or something else?
You mean for me, Daniel, or you mean for other people when they're looking to share?
Like both.
Oh, both. Okay. Yeah. And it's relevant, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's relevant because when I left journalism, like mainstream journalism, I left like working in newsrooms, I went out and took the skills that I had, knowing what makes media. And social media was, I'm 50. So social media was around and it was gaining in some popularity. And so I was using the skills that I had as a journalist to get leverage on social media, but also to get in mainstream media. And using those skills that I just shared with you about is it timely? Is it relevant to what's going on in the news right now? Is there some importance behind it? Is there some urgency behind it? So understanding what makes news in social media and in mainstream media, I was able to get myself on national TV, and I was able to get myself in national, international newspapers. I was able to land international deals, and people would ask me, how you do it, how you do it, how you do it. And I was selfish. I wouldn't tell them because it was my competitive advantage. And I knew how easy it was. And I knew, don't worry, karma's coming. And I knew that if I shared it, everyone would be doing it. And I had, back then, I must admit, I had, without even realizing it, a scarcity mentality. And so what happened was an inland tsunami came along. January, I think it was January 10, the year was 2011. And my warehouse, I had a bricks and mortar building, was in the middle of where that inland tsunami hit. And I lost everything. I was doing, on a quiet month, I was doing 75,000 a month turnover. And we're going back 12, 13 years. So that was a nice little turnover back then, to not even doing $1 for the rest of the month. And in fact, I didn't break even on my costs for the rest of the year. And 6 months to the day of that tsunami, I was rushed to hospital with a mini stroke from the stress of it. And so when I was recouping and recovering, and that's the book that I'll be sharing later when we get to that, a book that's been impactful on your life. And I was thinking about, what am I going to do? I just lost everything. People would say to me, well, can you share now? Can you share now? And I'd forgotten that I'd said no. And I thought, you know what? I can share, and I should have shared then, and I will share it now. So that's now what I do, is that I teach women in particular, because I specialize in the female voice, in how to bring out that essence of them, that genius of them, in a way that's going to land, that's going to be timely, that's going to resonate, and also has the potential. I've gotten on TV a couple of times by making a video go viral. So reverse engineering that video to then get that on TV, if that's, because I know that you have a global audience, Daniel. So that's something also that I would encourage your audience to be thinking about, is how can I reverse engineer this to also, social media has a huge following, but also there's the opportunity to get into mainstream media as well, and then have the two of those work together.
Work together for sure and for a better good. How did your experience as a journalist covering crises like tsunami change your fundamental understanding of what the story and what is for?
Yeah, really beautiful question. And I think a couple of things, and a story comes to mind actually about when I was asked to speak at an event, and I shared a story, and I found out 6, 7 months later that the story that I shared that morning had actually saved a mother's life. What happened was I was speaking at an event, and I just shared randomly a quote from Keurig Ashley's book, How Would Love Respond? And I was talking about how everything is fixed. Everything is, like you'll have a like my earbuds. This is a solid case, but everything's moving. Everything, even when it's solid, is moving. And so if everything, that line in the book was, everything's in a perpetual state of motion. And then if everything's in a perpetual state of motion, there, by definition, if you're not moving forward, then you are moving backwards. And I shared that line. I thought it was beautiful and fascinating, but I didn't understand, Daniel, the impact that it would have. I left, went about my day, and 6, 7 months later, I had someone come up to me and they said, "Oh, you spoke at such and such's event." And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, needed more information because it was so long ago. And I said, "Oh, yeah." And they said, "You mentioned a book, something about love responding." And I went, "Oh, my goodness, I did. Yeah, yeah. Were you there?" And they said, "No." But I had a client that went there that morning had written a goodbye note to her teenage son, had put all her affairs in order, and just was going to jump off the Story Bridge in Brisbane that day in Australia. But she happened to keep her ticket to the event that I was speaking at, came and heard me speak. And that one line resonated with her. She went home, she tore up the note, and she lives. So that is the power of story. We don't know what we have going on, that we have survived, or that what one little piece of information that we could share that could literally not just change a life but save lives. Because the truth is that people, particularly, well, always, I guess, lately in the last 30, 40 years, financial stress, people take their own lives for that. Do you have knowledge that you could literally not only change someone's finances but save them? Because lives end over that. Lives end over weight. Lives end over health and relationships. So when we step out of the, I don't want to get on video, or I look funny on video, or I don't sound like me, find someone that can help you with that. Because guys, it's not about, I'm an introverted newspaper journalist, Daniel. I'm much happier, not being on camera. But it's not about me. It's about who out there is waiting to hear what we have to say in only the way that we can say it. And that is the power of story.
Indeed, the power of storytelling. So, what is the single most important tool from your journalist toolkit that these non journalists are missing when they try to tell a story?
I'm not sure as though, well, yeah, some do, let's not get into American journalism. It's a can of worms, isn't it? The, the big one is emotion.
Mm.
And how does it land and impact the average person on the street? That's the big thing. That's the gap that we have to close. And in traditional journalism, when I say traditional journalism, I mean, back in my day, years ago, but in that kind of old fashioned journalism, we're always looking for, well, how does that impact the mum and dad on the street? What does that mean to them? And that's the biggest disconnect in a lot of the content that I see and in the content that entrepreneurs are trying to produce. There's this kind of wall that they want to put up and appear to be a certain way. And what's powerful is when we pull that down in a particular way. There's a time and place, today I've got my jacket on, but if you go and check out my videos, some days my hair's not even done, right? There's a time and a place to actually be completely authentic, a little bit dressed up, but always still authentic and credible and true to who you are. And digging in and giving that vulnerability and why that's important. What is the purpose of that? So it's not just sharing the story for the sake of sharing the story. is why does that story, and when I say story, Daniel, I also mean content, right? Teachings. Like for instance, if we have a look at what's going on in the world right now, we know there's a ton of protests going on right now. And if you're an expert in protests, you might do something, or you're an expert in security, you might talk about this is what you need to do today, and this is why. This is how you need to keep yourself. You just need to do these 3 things, and this is why. Because if you don't do this, this could happen. So this is going to keep you safe. So when we can do it in, you're an expert when you can do it in everyday language that people can understand. And then we have this term in marketing where it talks about landing the plane, meaning you got to land that story. What does it mean? Why should I care? And that is at the essence of finding the gold in your story. Why should they care about that little piece of story or content or genius that you have to share? What's in it for them, and what's in it for the people that they know and care about, and why is it important to take that on board right now?
Interesting, Miss Tanya. You mentioned toolkit beyond the classic who, what, when, where, and why. What are
Mm-hmm.
one of those
And
few
how?
of the most, yes, powerful, lesser known frameworks journalists use to find the heart of the story?
I think it's, so there's who, what, why, when, where, and how. Okay, so they're the
Yes.
basic ones. But really digging in, it's why. It's asking, and you'll get frustrated sometimes when you watch journalists because they'll ask the same question many times in slightly different ways. And honestly, that's the gold in it, because to get to the core of it, Daniel, you have to ask that question. Well, why is that important? And what does that look like? And how do you know that? And then what happens then? So that who, what, why, when, where, and how that we're familiar with when we think about just basic journalism, for each answer that you give, you then want to ask those questions again. That is mining for gold. So if I was to say I'm organizing a protest, you need these things. Why do you need these things? How do you know that? Of those, what's the most important? What haven't we thought about today? What could go wrong? What do you do if it does go wrong? And so do you see the different tangents it takes us on? Now all of a sudden, from struggling from I'm not sure what to make a video to is like, I have so many. What do I put into this one video? And that's when that timeliness, urgency, scarcity, relevancy comes in.
Miss Tanya, tell us, how does the journalistic principle of showing, not telling, translate into business or personal storytelling? Can you give us a concrete example?
That's a great question. Showing, not telling. Well, that's easy with video because you got B-roll.
That's true. That's true.
It is. You could literally show it in vision. And let's use that as an example. So for all of you who are making your videos, the greatest tip I can give you is to go back and watch your video before you post it, or if you've already posted it, go back and watch them without any sound, and tell me, when you're watching it with no sound, what is the feeling that you get watching that person? Are you getting a connection? Are you getting emotion? Are you getting tiredness, fatigue? Like, what is the vibe that you're getting? And can you tell what's going on by just watching? Now, when there's a talking head, as there are many, like this is a talking head. But if I was illustrating, so I've got my protein shake right here. If I was illustrating how to make a protein shake, I might be going like this because I'm showing without telling. So on video, it's quite easy because you can use B-roll, you can use props into it, but you don't want to overcook it though, Daniel. You don't want to like have so much stuff and it's so busy that the viewer can't relax and they need to look away to kind of catch their breath. So go back and watch your videos with the sound off and have a look. Is my body language matching what's going on? What kind of vibe am I getting if I wasn't to know me? And can I tell what's going on in that story? So that's something that I would do with my existing videos. And yeah, it's easy to show without telling when it comes to video.
Yes, definitely. And Miss Tanya, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Oh, my short-term and long-term goals. I believe, now this is a little bit cliche, but was it not Mahatma Gandhi that said it will be women who will change the world? So
Hmm?
my mission, my short and my long-term goals are to help women find their voices and lift them to a higher platform, altitude, and level so that we can spread more love, more joy, and more high vibration content, videos, and people around the world.
Interesting goals, and good luck to that. And looking forward for more success, more
Thank you.
success, Miss. And what would your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, firstly, if they want to be like me, I'd say don't, please don't. The world needs you. We already have a Tanya Target Camacho. We need you. And it's such a great question that you're asking because I think that's the big disconnect when people think about doing video. They think I need to fake it till I make it. I need to pretend that I'm someone else. I don't like who I am on video, so I'm gonna be a character. No, please don't. We need you. We need you in your purest, most beautiful form out there sharing the world. So please don't try to be anyone else. Just be you. You're perfect.
Just be you, people, and be authentic. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey, Miss Tanya?
Yes, I love this was tricky because it's just, if you're a bookworm like we all are listening to this, it's so hard to whittle it down to one. But I chose one that's relevant to what we talked about today. And that book is called Go Girl. You can get it in secondhand online stores. It's not being printed anymore, but it's called Go Girl, and it's written by Natalie Cook, and it talks about her story from a bronze beach volleyball medalist to a gold beach volleyball medalist. And the reason why it was so impactful is it was recommended to me by a friend after the tsunami hit, after I had a stroke, and I literally felt numb. I felt overwhelmed. I felt heavy. I felt unable to start. It just all felt like too much. And I said to my girlfriend, we're out riding our horses, and I said, I don't know even where to put one foot. And she recommended this book. And I read this book, and they talked about the little itty bitty committee going on in the head and the little negative and the negative. There's no positive, it's negative, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned I was born in England. I have very English parents, and so we don't talk about emotions and things like that. And so when I read this book, I was like, people have, so it's not just me. I'm not like got something wrong with me. There's other people having these internal conversations in their head. And just hearing it play out at that Olympic level made me feel like I wasn't alone. And it made me feel like I could go again. The girls lost, well, they came third on the world stage, which was for them for losing, and they picked up, they went again, and they became gold medalists and world champions. And from the ashes, the phoenix rises. And I went from that business. I ended up going into media training and doing what I'm doing now, and created a six-figure business within 3 months and a six-figure income within 6 months. And that book was the turning point for me. So I highly recommend it.
Yes, and I want that six figure too, Miss Tanya. And I want to read that book. And thank you for that recommended book. Tell us, you talk about responsibility that comes with these tools. What are the ethical lines or pitfalls people should be aware of when using a persuasive storytelling techniques?
Wow, these questions are on fire today, Daniel. Um, I
Thank you.
like it. Yeah, no, I like it. Truth. If you always stand in integrity and tell the truth, and if it's not truthful, don't do it. So I was editing a video not long ago, and the video that I was editing and the words on camera didn't match what I knew that client was doing. And I had a private conversation, and I said, look, we've got this video that says you're doing this, but we both know you're not doing this. They're not in integrity. There's a disconnect there. I highly recommend not publishing this video. And I mean, it was edited, it was all done. and they took my advice. And that's my advice to you. Always come from truth and let nothing get in the way of that. Sometimes that means we don't do that video because maybe we can't speak about that truth. Maybe there's some legalities around that, and that video could be done another time. That story can be shared another time. So we either stand in our truth and say nothing because we can't at that moment, or we stand in our truth and we say something. That's the number one rule.
Indeed. And before we wrap up our discussion today, Miss Tanya, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 is second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season. And my paper podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters in third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 and fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them whenever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Tanya, now that the toolkit is out in the world, what is the next chapter of for you?
My next chapter, help more women, just empower more women to share their stories and find their voice. That's my passion. Storytelling's been my passion since my grandparents can remember, since I was about 3 years old.
Miss Tanya Targett Camacho, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please
My
invite
pleasure.
our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
Come and follow me at Tanya Targett Camacho on Instagram, and check out my bio. If you'd like me to have a look at any of your videos and give you some feedback, I'd be happy to. And that link is on Instagram under my bio. Tanya Targett Camacho is my handle.
Yes, people, I support Miss Tanya Target Camacho because if we support her, for sure, more and more empowering women will rise. So, Miss Tanya, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.